the old Bermuda Triangle off the coast of Florida. Looks like we've got one inside the state of Florida that you keep posting about, and it's really just a fascinating story of this non-playing season, tying into what was in the Flores suit about, Tom Brady essentially, even though he was not named, showing up, at a boat, or yacht or whatever the hell it was for Stephen Ross. Arians saying, he's retiring because he just wanted to pass the torch, even though Brady's coming back. And Brady's role with the Dolphins potentially, and what it might have meant before he unretired, and then he unretires, and then Arians goes, but it's not because Brady forced it. What is your 2 cents on whatever the hell is going on with these 3 Bermuda Triangle data points?
Well,
for me.
And this always makes Buccaneers fans and Dolphins fans very happy when I say this, but Brady was going to Miami. And Sean Payton was going to Miami. And that was the plan. And Brady was going to be introduced as a minority owner of the Dolphins as soon as Super Bowl week. He retired Tuesday, February 1. Hours later, Brian Flores drops his lawsuit, which includes the allegation that he was pressured to meet with a high-profile quarterback who was under contract with another team. He doesn't mention who it was. It was Brady. That was in 2020 when Brady was about to become a free agent after his time with the Patriots ended. That lawsuit short-circuited what the Dolphins were going to do. And it was going to be Brady introduced as a minority owner, pursuit of Sean Payton. And they acknowledged they called the Saints about Payton, and they were told by former Dolphins GM Jeff Ireland, who's now assistant GM with the Saints, don't waste your time. I think there was more to it than that. The Dolphins admit that they considered making Tom Brady a minority owner, but I think it was going to be minority owner, here comes Payton, and at some point in the spring, Brady unretires and goes to the Dolphins. And I say all that now because we need to keep an eye on the possibility of Brady going to the Dolphins next year, because he'll be a free agent. There's a no-tag clause in his contract with the Buccaneers. Unless they extend his contract, they cannot keep him from going wherever he wants to go. So, look, I think that there's a lot of smoke there, which means there are at least flickers of flame. And I look at it, consider this example, Rich.
Yeah.
Last year, Drew Brees retires. Okay, let's say Drew Brees retired for 40 days, came back after his retirement ends. 17 days later, Sean Payton quits. What would Drew Brees have said? I think he would have said, what the hell, man? I'm back and you're leaving. There was none of that vibe with Tom Brady. Wasn't that striking to you? There wasn't even a flinch. There wasn't even a batting of an eye that Bruce Arians is out 17 days after Tom Brady came back. And to me, that said it all.
Yeah, I hear you there, and in some ways it does not make sense that Arians would just say, I don't want to stick around here anymore, even though Brady is back. Like there's pieces that don't fit. But how would Brady have been able to unretire and go to Miami? Wouldn't there have been compensation go to Tampa that would be required to make that work?
They would have had to compensate the Saints to get Peyton. They would have had to compensate the Buccaneers to get Brady. But the wheels were all moving in that direction. And I don't know whether or not the Buccaneers would have drawn a line in the sand if it came down to it. I know Bruce Arians kind of flippantly said at the Combine they would want 5 first-round picks. But I know that the Buccaneers were concerned about Miami. I know the Buccaneers were concerned about San Francisco. And even though no one's going to admit it, they've crafted this narrative that can allow Bruce Arians to walk out the door with his head held high and not feel like he's getting pushed, and that's fine. But the timeline is too weird. The reaction by Brady is too positive. And
What do you mean? Hold on. What do you mean it's too positive? Because
his head coach is out. He's back. I think if he had retired from the Patriots and he comes back and 17 days later Bill Belichick quits, there's at least going to be a what the hell, man? There's at least going to be something. It was all just like, yeah, this is exactly what we expected. And, Rich, I say that because, and I may have told you this before. I know I've said it on PFT Live. I was told within 2 hours after Tom Brady unretired, the next shoe to fall is Arians will be out. And it happened 17 days later. I was told that by someone I trust, and I wasn't able to nail it down and report it, but we hinted at it the next morning on PFT Live. I said I'll be surprised if both Brady and Arians are with the Buccaneers week 1, and 16 days after that is when it happened. So that's why I'm very skeptical, because I mean, people I trust were telling me that it was coming, and other people I trust were telling me that this Miami thing was very, very real.
And I heard that Arians and Brady, had gears grinding, and that when it all comes down to it, Brady didn't really prefer Arians' approach sometimes, not just about the way he was talking, but just the way he would run things there.
Undisciplined.
That's one way to...
Semi-retired, showing up, barnstorming in, messing up the work that he and Leftwich were doing. Think about that. Any workplace. If the boss has checked out half or most of the time and then shows up late in the week after you've been busting your ass all week to try to get things in order and starts changing things, it's going to irritate you after a while.
But I heard that Brady could have still lived with it, though, when it all comes down to it.
Well, maybe they just ignore him in 2022. I don't know what they would have done, but it's one hell of a coincidence. And maybe there are coincidences, maybe there aren't. But this is one we've never seen before, where one of the great all-time players retires for 40 days, comes back, and 17 days later, his head coach is out, and there's no reason for the head coach to walk away other than the narrative that they crafted, which is a very positive, uplifting idea that he wants to hand the baton to Todd Bowles under circumstances where he has a chance to succeed. That's great. I support that. But I also am not willing to believe that it's exactly the way it went down, and that's I know that's not a popular take with Buccaneers fans and Bruce Arians, but that's what I believe.
Well, I thought that my guy Chris Brockman's day was made just because Tiger Woods' favorite non-New England athlete is performing at the Masters, but you just made his day because he's been
saying the same thing for weeks.
You've been all over this whole narrative.
Mike, that's what I said. It doesn't pass the smell test.
Yeah.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.